Hey there everybody, Mazarok here, and today we have to talk about a spec that I have to admit I was wrong on in my early predictions coming into 10.1, and I'm happily so, because this is probably the most fun version of Vengeance I think I've ever played. Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe. It goes such a long way to helping out the channel. There is a Patreon link down below. This is going to be an early access video for my patrons. There's early access tank club writings, everything like that. Bunch of cool stuff that you can get for being a patron. There is a Discord link down below, a Twitch link down below if you wish to watch me stream, and there is merch as well. I'm thinking about doing a Mechanics is Everybody's Job merch line or something. Let me know what you guys think of that down below. But Vengeance. Alright, so we're going to start by talking about the tier. We're going to talk about talents, and then we're going to talk about, some consumables and embellishments and things like that. So the new tier piece, 4-piece tier set, is incredibly strong. So the 2-piece is soul fragments heal for 10% more, which is nice, and generating a soul fragment increases your fire damage by 2% for 6 seconds, and multiple applications may overlap. Now, Vengeance likes fire damage. We deal quite a bit of it, which is really, really nice, so works well. The 4-piece is where things get really, really cracked out. So we're gonna just not talk about sheer. Fracture deals fire damage, and after consuming 20 soul fragments, your next cast of Fracture will apply Fiery Brand for 6 seconds to its target. This is incredibly strong because it interacts with all of the Fiery Brand talents in the tree. And when we get to the spec tree, we're going to talk about all of that. But when you're playing with this tier set, it's all about Fiery Brand spreading as much as possible. Now, one of the things that I noticed to get the most amount of uptime is to make sure that you're not constantly reapplying your Fiery Brand onto the same target. When you have your Fracture come up, and it will proc and light up, when your next Fracture will apply that Fiery Brand, make sure that you're putting it onto the different target that you may have just put one on. This way it just kind of really works around itself and is a really, really good time. Now, as we get to the talents here, this is the base talent tree that I've been working with, but I have made some alterations here or there depending on what we need. Now, with the amount of fire damage that we're dealing, Charred Warblades is actually a pretty good pick. It's really not bad at all, but there is going to be some stuff that you're going to have to get around to get Vengeful Retreat, so that is something you're going to have to look around on the dungeons that you may need it, mainly in Tangling Weeks. Now, here we have Master of the Glaive and Felfire Haste. If you are playing in an organized group, go with Felfire Haste. It's the better option. If you are playing with pugs, and those pugs love to just burst on demand without you even doing anything, I've noticed that Master of the Glaive helps me re-get threat on a lot of packs, and I pug most of my content, so Master of the Glaive seems to be the better option for me. But in most situations, Felfire Haste is going to be the better option here. On the spec tree, I have opted for Revel and Pain. This has an incredibly good uptime, and it deals a lot, like 7 million healing is nothing. Now on the talent tree, I opt for Revel and Pain. This does add a certain amount of stability to my HB bar, no overhealing, and does absorb quite a bit, and works with every Fiery Brand. And if we look at the stats here, this is a 17 Vortex Pinnacle, if I'm not mistaken. 7 million healing, and this is about average. It does a lot of healing and can add that nice little stability. If you're looking for something to be a little bit more offensive, I would opt for Soul Carver instead of Revel and Pain. I've played with both. Soul Carver allows you to generate more soul fragments, do more fire damage, and allows the process of Fiery Brand spreading to be a little bit quicker. It is very offensive, but you are losing 7 million healing off one talent just by doing this. So this comes down to a choice of preference and play and how you want. I can see myself playing both in many different dungeons and scenarios and things like that. It was just Fortified Week, so Revel and Pain came in handy a lot. It might not come as in handy on Tyrannical Week, where Vengeance already does really, really good on Tyrannical bosses anyway. There's not a whole lot, and with the amount of uptime that you're going to have on Fiery Brand, you're pretty much good to go. You can also choose Fodder to the Flame or Elysian Decree. Now, if you've watched me stream, if you watch me talk about Vengeance at all, I have never been a fan of Fodder to the Flame. Now, am I saying it doesn't have its uses? No, and it is probably the go-to meta pick. If that's kind of what, if you want to play it, go ahead and play it. I hate it. It's not for me at all. I'm not trying to go for rank 1 or anything, and I have a lot more fun with Elysian Decree. Big damage, soul fragment generation, and it works, you know, I get a full soul fragment bar every time I use this every 48 seconds, which allows me to take things like Revel in Pain and things like that and kind of work that around. If you don't hit Soul Cleave much at all or ever, you can opt for Soulmonger along your way here as well. With Tyrannical Weeks, I would probably opt for Soul Cleave because Soul Cleave does respectable damage in single target, although you want to be trying to burn as much soul fragments as possible. So this is, again, purely preferential. One's going to give you more absorb healing. The other one is going to give you more Soul Cleave damage. Which one do you want? That is completely your pick. Now, when we talk about talents here, you notice that we don't have things like Dark Glare Boon. Your defensive capabilities now comes from Fiery Brand and Fiery Brand spreading. It's really, you're all in on this build. You have 2 stacks of Fiery Brand on a 45-second cooldown. Very, very strong. So we're keeping Feldev at 1 minute. I have tested some builds with Dark Glare Boon and Stoke the Flames and things like that, and they do about the same. Really, the damage is a little bit different. So if you want to play it, we could talk about that build in a little bit in a different video. Let me know down in the comment section below. But really, I think this is kind of the more optimal choice to go. That just allows you to have insane fire damage, like with the Burning in Blood, Fiery Demise. I mean, these 4 points right here increase your fire damage by 60%. That's not a small amount. And of course, Immolation Aura, you want those talents there, and everything works really, really nicely with one another. But you're also noticing that we might not, that, you know, we don't take as many Demon Spike talents. So full uptime on Demon Spikes, which was fully doable last season with the more tanky build, with this one is not as possible. So we really are relying on Fiery Brand for our offensive and defensive capabilities, but it is an absolute monster on the field. As you can see on this overall, 78k overall, and I am only item level like 429, and that was in a Vortex Pinnacle of all places. This build slaps. It is insanely good, and I think this is the most amount of fun I've ever had on Vengeance, like I said before. Couple embellishment slots that you can choose from as well. You can go with the Lifethorn Toxic Shooty Darts boots. I can't remember the name of them right now. And with a Toxified patch on a different piece. Of course, you can go with the Shadow Flame armor patch as well, which you can double up on if that's something that you do want. And just allow yourself to do more damage if you're more damage focused. If you're more survival focused, you can also go with the Spore Cloud Cloak if that's something that you do wish as well. And if you're trying to get a little bit more single target damage, you can opt for the Shadow Flame enchant as well. Here I've kept with Frozen Devotion and Sophic Devotion. It's worked really well for me. I like the combination of Prime Stat and AoE proc. But I have noticed on different tanks, the proc of the Shadow Flame enchant do very, very well and compete with Frozen Devotion. It's just more priority-based target, single target focused, versus this one's a little bit more AoE, so that's something that you can opt into. All in all, like, this spec is so incredibly fun. I cannot tell you guys, like, this is by far the highest damage dealing tank. It's gotta be. But it's so fun to play with. You don't need any defensive trinkets with this build as well, with the amount of Fiery Brand uptime that you're going to have, and being able to take that downtime and make sure that you have Demon Spikes and Calcified Spikes going, which really should not be a problem at all. Just make sure that you have enough haste to upkeep and keep playing aggressively, to keep burning through those soul fragments, to keep reapplying Fiery Brands, and always try and make sure that you have a Fiery Brand going into the next pull, either from a Fracture proc from your 20 soul fragments or just an actual Fiery Brand button that you can press. This has helped a lot with threat issues as well. The moment Fiery Brand spreads and Immolation Aura is up, you are not going to be losing threat, which is insanely nice. I've been playing with the Dragonfire Bomb Trinket as well. This is really, really good in heavy AoE dungeons, but I've noticed in things like Vortex Pinnacle, where the poles tend to be a little bit smaller, I'm a little bit sad with this one. I haven't had the greatest luck on my trinkets with Vengeance, but you can play whatever you want. If you want to play something more defensive or offensive, the choice is completely yours to how you want to play. All in all, if you haven't heard me talk yet enough, this spec is so fucking fun right now. It is an absolute blast to play. For the Onyx Amulet, I know it's still good. Storm, Blood, Prophetic, still to play. It's unfortunate, but that's kind of what it is. It's where we are. It's how it works out, right? It's the game that we play, and sometimes this needs to get nerfed. But that's a whole different conversation for another video. All in all, is it time to level up a Vengeance Demon Hunter and have an absolute blast with this spec in Mythic Plus and even in Raid? This thing cranks in Raid. It's unreal. This is so much fun. Have yourself a good one, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks again to my patrons for making videos like this happen. Happy tanking.